Welcome to Global Accessibility Awareness Day 2023. I would like to introduce to you the Android Ally. The Android Ally is a desktop software companion to enable testers and developers faster access to Android device accessibility features. The core goal is to simplify and encourage Android accessibility testing. It also works on emulators, which have been problematic because of the nature of the gestures that TalkBack uses. The way that the software operates is by reading and writing values to the device settings through the Android Debug Bridge, commonly known as the ADB. On some devices, this may result in unexpected behavior. Please use at your own risk and read more about these commands from within the Help menu. The Android Ally also has an optional Android accessibility service called TalkBack for developers. TalkBack is the open source screen reader for Android. The two most popular versions are the base version from Google and the fork modified by Samsung. TalkBack for developers is a customized fork of Google's TalkBack that is feature complete and allows developers to use ADB commands for more fine-grained control of TalkBack. The core function is to allow developers to interact with TalkBack without having to learn any of the gestures or navigate complex menu structures. Let's get started with installing the Android Ally and TalkBack for developers. You can go to the GitHub page and navigate down to the Downloads section. Choose the version that matches your system and select Download. Once it downloads, it might take a bit of time. There we go. We can extract the DMG or your installation file, and we can double click to open it. Oh, there's the second download. Right, we install. And then we can drag the Android Ally into our applications. From there, we can just select Open. We'll need to cancel the first time, and then Open and Open. From here on out, you'll be able to just open it like any normal app. Once the Android Ally is open, you'll be greeted with a welcome screen. You can read more about how this is constructed, what's being collected in terms of analytics, and the libraries that are available. You'll see in the Devices panel, we have both the devices that are connected, the physical devices, and the emulators that are connected. I do recommend with emulators that you have Google APIs installed on your emulator, because otherwise you won't get any spoken feedback. You can select which devices you want to execute commands with by using either clicking the menu or keyboard shortcuts. So you'll notice these triangles with exclamation marks in it. They're just telling you that TalkBack for developers isn't installed. TalkBack for developers is only required if you want to use the features underneath the TalkBack element here. So all of these controls, the granularity, previous, next tap, long tap menu actions button, controlling the volume and TalkBack speech output, those are all features that are provided by TalkBack for developers. There are no shortcuts in TalkBack, Google's TalkBack or Samsung's TalkBack for developers to do this via the ADB. TalkBack on and off will still work if you have TalkBack installed on your device. I have an emulator which has no version of TalkBack on it. So let's install TalkBack on both devices. Once installed, we'll see it appear on our devices and we'll get a notification. We can now turn TalkBack on. and you'll see we enter into the TalkBack tutorial, which I strongly recommend users do. For now, we're going to close it, and you can see we're acting on both devices at once, so we can do multiple testing. If we get out of sync, it's quite easy to just choose one device and go back in. You'll see sometimes it's not exactly the same on all devices, so we can just navigate through the ones that we want to use. Let's allow that. To navigate TalkBack, you'll see we have this granularity. This is also known as reading mode. I've set it to, it's defaulted to the default mode, and it will logically go through each element on the screen. You can also choose headings, and that will take you to the next and previous headings on the screen. This is a really useful feature for screen reader users, and I highly recommend getting used to testing your headings. Other settings you can do, you can access a pseudo keyboard. This sends ADB keyboard commands through to your device, so we can press home on our devices. You can press the menu button, tap the power button. You can send text through. And in addition, you can now navigate to an app and open up the actions menu with just one tap, rather than knowing the particular gesture for that. We can also access the TalkBack menu, and we can adjust the volume. You'll know it's TalkBack for developers by the fact that there is an animated toast message with the speech output. I've also ensured that the volume is defaulted to low, specifically for developers and testers who are constantly on chats and don't want their device interrupting their calls. Right, let's turn TalkBack off and go through some other settings. Right, you can choose from a number of settings from this menu or from the menu at the top. You can toggle your layout bounds, so you can check your touch target sizes from a manual perspective. You can toggle animations on and off. This will require a forced on resume or on create to be invoked by you, so you might need to minimize your app and reinflate your app. This is the same with captions and audio descriptions. It doesn't invoke a system change. Fonts, on the other hand, do invoke that system change immediately, and so we can adjust to 2.5 or 0.5 all the way up to 2.5 and go back to default. We can also toggle dark mode on and off, so we can get our devices, test our devices in both modes. We can also test color inversion. You might notice that the color inversion doesn't come through on all devices, because when you're mirroring your device on screen, the accessibility layer that's in control of that might not render it. So when I do this, it's probably going to work on the emulator, but not on the mirrored device. Let's have a look. So we can turn on, for example, grayscale, or let's go with color inversion. And yep, so it didn't even work on the emulator. I don't think it supports it. And color inversion, while it's on my phone, is not being rendered on screen. Correction, let's go to grayscale. That has the same effect. So it's best to test looking at your physical device, but mirroring is okay for this. You can also open specific screens. My favorite is opening the locale. We can quickly get to the languages screen and add new languages that we might not be particularly used to reading in. I love using the right to left layout languages because this is the best way to test for multiple users. So I've now changed my language, and I can go home and test whatever features I need, right? Now, one of my favorite things is I don't have to throw my devices away just because I changed my languages. I can go right back into the locale, whoops, and change back to the language that I am more familiar with. Let's open locale again here for some reason. Yeah, there we go. And my devices are back to normal. I hope you have a great Global Accessibility Awareness Day 2023 and that this helps you make more accessible apps.